Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to today's explainer, where we are launching a full clinical investigation into the specific biological shifts that hit men after the age of 45. We're going to strip away all that online marketing hype you usually see and look purely at the science of testosterone decline, using some fantastic data from a comprehensive review of TestoPrime Gold by Formula Tested. So if you're past your mid-40s and, you're starting to feel a real shift in your daily vitality, you are absolutely going to want to pay close attention to the biology we uncovered today. Because it brings us to this central mystery we're trying to solve today. Why exactly does a 45-year-old man often feel significantly worse? We're talking way less drive, much poorer recovery than a 30-year-old, even when a basic blood test shows that their total testosterone numbers look somewhat similar. Like, what is actually happening beneath the surface here? Well, to answer that, we really have to start with the inescapable math. Testosterone production generally declines at roughly 1 to 2% every single year after age 30. So by the time you hit 45, that gradual decline compounds into a massive 15 to 30% drop below your physical peak. That is absolutely not a trivial reduction. But, as we're about to see, that raw drop in the numbers, it's really only half the story. So here is our roadmap for today's explainer. We're going to cover the post-45 drop, identify 3 specific hormonal saboteurs, analyze clinical interventions, objectively evaluate a targeted formula, and then ground the whole thing in real biological timelines. Let's get to it. Part 1, the post-45 drop. Let's look at the actual biology of aging and investigate how the fundamental mechanism of testosterone decline completely changes over time. What's really fascinating here is that in your 30s, this decline is relatively simple. It's gradual. Your pituitary gland is still efficiently signaling your testes to produce testosterone. But after 45, you face this hidden crisis of free testosterone. You aren't just producing less. Compounding issues are actually locking up the testosterone you do have. It drastically reduces the usable, free testosterone your body actually relies on for your energy and your drive. To understand exactly what is causing this lockup, we move to part 2. Hormonal saboteurs. Saboteur number 1 is basically a massive failure in communication. Luteinizing hormone, or LH, is produced by your pituitary gland. It acts as the primary signal telling your body to manufacture testosterone. But as we age, this signaling process simply loses its efficiency. It's kind of like trying to make a phone call with a weak cell signal, right? The message just isn't getting through clearly anymore. Then we meet our second saboteur, SHBG, which stands for sex hormone binding globulin. This is a protein that naturally increases after you hit 45. And the problem here? SHBG binds incredibly tightly to your testosterone. Think of it literally like a biological padlock. You might actually have decent total testosterone flowing through your veins, but if it's bound up by SHBG, your body simply cannot access it. It's effectively useless. And finally, we have saboteur number 3, aromatase. This is an enzyme whose activity aggressively accelerates as men age. And honestly, it creates this cruel biological irony. Right as your body is struggling to produce testosterone, and right as SHBG is locking up what little you do have, the aromatase enzyme comes in and rapidly converts your remaining available testosterone directly into estrogen. No thank you. So, how do we fight back? That brings us to part 3, clinical interventions. Let's examine the specific ingredients and the exact dosages used in the TestoPrime Gold formulation to counter these precise age-related mechanisms. The crucial point to remember here is that in any valid formulation, every single ingredient must have a specific biological job and an exact clinical dosage. It is not a guessing game. You can see how D-Aspartic Acid, Ashwagandha, and Fenugreek are mapped directly to the signaling, stress, and enzymatic issues we just discussed, and at highly specific dosages. Let's actually break these down one by one. First up is the D-Aspartic Acid, or DAA, protocol. TestoPrime Gold uses a purposefully higher dosage to compensate for that weak LH signaling in older men we talked about earlier. DAA works by stimulating the hypothalamus and pituitary gland to basically crank up that signal. But here is a super surprising fact from the clinical research. DAA actually works best when it is cycled. Usually that means 4 to 8 weeks on, followed by 2 weeks off. If you use it continuously without taking a break, it can actually cause receptor downregulation, which just means your body stops responding to it entirely. Next, let's look at KSM60-ashwagandha. Men in their 40s and 50s are often dealing with really intense career and life stress, right? And that heavily elevates cortisol. Well, cortisol actively suppresses testosterone production. In a randomized, double-blind clinical trial, a specific 668 milligram dose of ashwagandha, which, by the way, is exactly what's used here, was shown to dramatically drop stress-induced serum cortisol by a massive 32% over 8 weeks. When you relieve that stress, you relieve the direct suppression on your pituitary gland. And this builds sequentially with Fenugreek. At a clinically meaningful dose of 800 milligrams, it acts as a true biological dual threat. Step 1. Specific compounds within it actually inhibit the aromatase enzyme, which basically slams the brakes on that estrogen conversion we discussed. Step 2. It actively reduces SHBG binding. So this means it is simultaneously stopping estrogen creation while freeing up your bound testosterone so your body can finally use it. It is a fantastic 1-2 punch. Now, do not let the simplicity of these next ingredients fool you. Vitamin D3 and zinc are so often dismissed as, basic or boring additions. But true deficiencies in these nutrients literally, physically prevent your body from synthesizing testosterone at the cellular and enzymatic level. If you work indoors and you don't get enough sun, fixing a vitamin D gap is absolutely one of the most clinically proven ways to unblock your natural testosterone production. Moving on to part 4, evaluating the formula. We've seen the science, but how does this formulation actually hold up when we set strict, objective boundaries on what it can genuinely achieve? Comparing TestoPrime Classic and TestoPrime Gold brilliantly illustrates how treating age-related decline requires precise tools, not just some generic gym booster. The Classic formula is great if you're, say, 35 and you just want a nice energy bump, but Gold is entirely recalibrated. It explicitly targets the rising SHBG and that rapid estrogen conversion that only really becomes a primary issue after age 45. It focuses heavily on freeing up testosterone rather than just broadly stimulating it. But look, we absolutely have to maintain rigorous clinical objectivity here. Who is this actually built for? Well, it is appropriate for men experiencing gradual age-related decline, stress-induced suppression, and basic nutrient gaps. What is it not appropriate for? It is explicitly not a substitute for testosterone replacement therapy in men with clinically diagnosed hypogonadism. If your body has genuinely stopped producing testosterone due to a severe medical condition, and over-the-counter supplements simply cannot fix that. Let's be very clear on that. Finally, part 5, biological timelines. It's time to ground all of these interventions in physiological reality. We absolutely have to dispel the supplement industry hype right now. Safely altering your endocrinology with natural compounds takes weeks and months, not days. It takes 4 to 6 weeks for DAA to properly upregulate your LH signaling. It takes a full 8 weeks for ashwagandha to significantly lower your serum cortisol. Buying one bottle of this stuff, taking it for 2 weeks, and expecting an absolute miracle is just a recipe for failure. The biology demands a minimum 60 to 90-day clinical runway to properly evaluate if these targeted mechanisms are actually working for you. I want to leave you with this pretty sobering but incredibly empowering truth. A blood test gives you a real answer. A bottle of pills does not. If you're feeling that intense drag of aging post-45, you really have to understand the profound difference between addressing over-the-counter nutrient gaps and treating a severe medical condition. Science absolutely provides the tools, but you have to bring the realistic expectations and, honestly, the patience to let your biology work. Which leaves us with one final, absolutely critical question for you to consider today. If your current protocol is failing, are you targeting the right hormonal saboteurs for your biological age? Are you just trying to blindly boost your numbers? Or are you actually addressing the LH decline, the SHBG binding, and that aromatase conversion that are secretly locking up your vitality? Think about it. Look at the science of your own biology and make an informed decision. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.